You know, sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is nothing at all. And I don't mean nothing as in sitting back and letting someone walk all over you. I mean nothing as in refusing to react the way they want you to. Because here's the truth. When someone is trying to get under your skin, when they're waiting for you to break, it's not about the moment, it's about the control, the attention, the validation. And the second you give them that emotional outburst, that frantic message, that tearful confession, they win. Not because they care, but because your reaction tells them they still have power over you. That's why silence can be the loudest message you'll ever send. There's something incredibly powerful about not giving someone the reaction they expect. Think about it. If he goes to you and you come chasing, if he pulls away and you reach out desperately, if he says something cruel and you snap or fall apart, it confirms something in his mind. She's still hooked. She still cares more. She's still trying. And some people, especially those who aren't emotionally healthy, feed off that dynamic. They want to know they can push you and you'll fall. They want to see that they can shake you and you'll fall. So when you choose not to give them that performance, it's disarming. It confuses them. And more than that, it empowers you, because silence doesn't mean weakness. It doesn't mean avoidance. It means choice. It means you've recognized what's happening and you're rising above it. You're saying, I see what this is and I'm not playing the game. See, reacting emotionally can feel like strength in the moment. You want to be heard. You want to stand up for yourself. You want to let it all out. And that's valid. But here's the thing. The strongest moments in your life are rarely the ones where you yell the loudest. They're the ones where you stay grounded, where you could lose it, but you don't, where you could chase, but you walk away. That is strength with dignity. That is grace under fire. You're not weak because you miss someone. You're not soft because you care. But when someone uses your vulnerability to provoke you, to test how deeply they still impact you, you have to ask, are they doing this out of love or out of ego? If someone truly cares about you, they won't want to see you suffer. They won't bait you, breadcrumb you, or withdraw affection just to see how much you squirm. That kind of behavior comes from insecurity, not love. It comes from needing validation through your pain. And the moment you give them that reaction, it's like handing over the keys to your self-worth. But when you hold your silence, when you respond with calm, when you choose not to respond at all, you're saying, my peace is not negotiable. And that does something to them, because they expected chaos. They expected tears. They expected you to try and fix it, to reach out, to chase. But instead, you gave them mystery. You gave them boundaries. And more than anything, you gave yourself permission to walk with self-respect, even when it hurts. That's what changes the dynamic. Here's what I want you to remember. Just because someone walks away doesn't mean you chase. Just because someone is distant doesn't mean you beg for closeness. Just because someone expects you to break doesn't mean you do. That moment when you're tempted to text that emotional paragraph, when you're rehearsing your anger in your head, when you want to do something just to feel better, that's your crossroads. And if you can choose strength in that second, even once, you'll feel a shift inside you. It may not erase the pain, but it will restore your power. And look, I get it. Silence is hard, especially when your heart is screaming for closure or connection or clarity. But silence doesn't mean you're suppressing your feelings. It means you're honoring them in private rather than putting them on display for someone who doesn't deserve that intimacy. You don't need to prove you're hurt. You don't need to prove your love, and you certainly don't need to perform your breakdown so they finally understand what they've done. If they cared, they'd already see it, and if they don't, no amount of reaction will make them. This isn't about pretending you're unaffected. It's about choosing how and where you place your energy. Don't spend your emotions like loose change on someone who only wants to count your value when it benefits them. You're not here to be anyone's emotional mirror, reflecting their own power back at them. You are your own center, your own source of worth. And when someone tries to rattle that, tries to provoke you just to get a rise out of you, that's not a moment for explanation. It's a moment for elevation. And that's why silence is not just the absence of noise. It's the presence of strength, the kind of strength that makes people realize they never had as much control as they thought. Because real confidence isn't shown in how loud you speak when you're hurt. It's in how little you say when you know your value. So don't give him the satisfaction. You see, a lot of people get caught in this cycle without even realizing it. Someone pulls away, goes cold, becomes distant, and suddenly your mind is in overdrive. What did I do? What should I have said? Why is he acting like this? You start replaying every moment in your head, analyzing your texts, your tone, your timing, and slowly, without even noticing, you begin to make his behavior your responsibility. That's when the game becomes dangerous. The truth is, some people don't just pull away out of disinterest. Sometimes they do it to see how much power they have over you. It's not always conscious, but it's a form of control. If you react by chasing, by panicking, by breaking down emotionally, you confirm something for them, that their absence means more to you than your self-worth. That's when they feel powerful. And in that moment, they're no longer just part of your story. They're writing it. You cannot let someone else's inconsistency rewrite the story of how valuable you are. When someone ghosts you, sends mixed signals, or plays hot and cold, the worst thing you can do is make it about your shortcomings. That's what the game is designed to do. Shift your focus from them being unclear to you being not enough. And the second you buy into that, you start bending. You start adapting yourself in hopes of being chosen again. But here's the thing. When someone plays these games, what they're really doing is testing to see whether you'll abandon yourself to win them over. Will you start texting more just to keep the connection alive? Will you lower your standards and pretend it doesn't bother you that they disappeared for 3 days? Will you keep trying to impress them, hoping they finally give you the validation you're craving? This is where everything changes. When you stop playing along, when you don't take the bait, when you realize that any connection built on your need to prove your worth is not a connection at all. It's a performance. And love is not meant to be a performance. It's not meant to be earned through anxiety or secured through silence. You don't want someone who's impressed by how much you can tolerate. You want someone who respects how much you'll never tolerate. The minute you see that someone is playing games to manipulate your emotions, you have two choices. You can try to win their approval by playing back, or you can choose to step out of the game entirely and take your power with you. That's not easy because we all want to feel chosen. We all want to be seen, but what's more important than being chosen is choosing yourself, especially when someone else is trying to make you forget how valuable you are. This is where real confidence kicks in. Not when everything is going smoothly, but when someone's pulling away and your response is, if this is how you operate, you're not the person I'm looking for. That's strength, that's self-respect, that's emotional clarity. And that's the moment when the story shifts, because you're no longer reacting to what someone else is doing, you're leading with your own standards. And don't confuse this with being cold or detached. It's not about pretending you don't care. You can care, you can be hurt, you can feel disappointed. But none of those things should convince you to shrink yourself just to keep someone around. You're allowed to want closeness and still walk away from inconsistency. You're allowed to desire connection and still choose dignity over desperation. Some people will leave gaps in communication just to see how quickly you'll fill them. They'll withdraw affection just to watch you scramble for it. That's not love, that's not interest, that's ego, that's fear. And your job is not to soothe someone's ego or calm their fears by sacrificing your emotional well-being. You reclaim your story when you say, I don't chase what confuses me. I don't invest where I'm not respected, and I don't lose myself trying to be enough for someone who isn't even clear on what they want. The moment you stop trying to decode someone else's mixed signals is the moment you start living in clarity. And clarity, emotional clarity, is the only place where love can grow. Because love doesn't bloom in confusion. It doesn't thrive in fear. Love grows in certainty, in truth, and in mutual respect. Anything else is a transaction disguised as intimacy. So the next time someone pulls back and expects you to spiral, to chase, to question your worth, don't. Don't give them the satisfaction. Let them sit with their silence. Let them feel the weight of losing someone who didn't need to beg to be seen. That is the most powerful message you can send without saying a word. Let them feel the loss of your peace. You know, one of the hardest things to accept when someone pulls away from you, especially someone you cared about, invested in, gave your energy to, is the sudden feeling of rejection. It stings. It creates this massive space of silence and confusion, and it's natural to start wondering, what did I do wrong? Or why wasn't I enough? But let me tell you something most people miss Rejection is not always about you. In fact, very often, it's not about you at all. Sometimes it's a power move. You see, there are people out there who pull away, not because they've lost interest, not because they found someone better, not even because they're done with you. They pull away to see if you'll break, to see if you'll chase them, to see if you'll spiral into desperation. It's a way for them to feel powerful again. They don't want to have a deep, honest connection. They want to feel in control. And in that moment, you might feel the urge to reach out, to fix it, to send that long message explaining your worth, proving why they shouldn't leave, asking what went wrong. But when you do that, you give them exactly what they want, validation. Not the kind that comes from love, but the kind that strokes their ego, the I still have a hold on you kind. And let's be honest, if someone's idea of connection is seeing whether or not you fall apart without them, that's not a relationship. It's a performance, a test. And you weren't born to pass someone else's test. You were born to live in your truth, not audition for someone's approval. Think about it. When someone walks away and you don't chase, when you resist that impulse to fix it, you're doing something incredibly powerful. You're interrupting their script. Their whole expectation was that you'd break, and now you're not. Now you're calm, grounded, going about your life. That's when the silence becomes deafening for them, not for you. Because real strength shows in how you handle the moments when you're tempted to break your own standards just to make someone. It shows in how you choose dignity over desperation. And listen, I get it. That kind of composure doesn't come easy. It takes every ounce of courage to hold your line, especially when your heart is involved. But the truth is, when you let go of someone who plays games to keep you guessing, you create space for someone who values you without the drama. You also teach yourself an important lesson in the process, that your self-worth doesn't hang in the balance of someone. You're not here to be picked. You're not a contestant hoping for a rose. You are the rose, and not everyone deserves access to that. Now, here's the twist. Sometimes that person who pulled away, they come back, they test, and when you don't chase, they get curious. Suddenly, they remember your value. But here's what I want you to remember. If that ever happens, don't mistake someone's renewed interest for genuine change. Just because they return doesn't mean they've grown. Often they're just responding to the fact that they didn't get the reaction they wanted. And if they do come back, it's not your job to make them comfortable again. Let them earn their way back, if that's even what you want. Because someone who made you question your value once can do it again. And second chances shouldn't be handed out as rewards for manipulation. They should be reserved for people who show up with clarity, effort, and respect. You are allowed to walk away from anyone who makes you feel like love is a battlefield. That's not love. That's emotional roulette. And you deserve peace. You deserve consistency. You deserve someone who makes you feel safe, not someone who makes you feel like you're always one misstep away from being abandoned. So the next time someone pulls away and everything in you wants to chase, pause, breathe, remind yourself that your value doesn't change just because someone else can't see it. You know, people often think that the most powerful way to get someone's attention or to get them to regret how they treated you is to make a scene, to show them how hurt you are, to go on a rant, to let every emotion explode in their direction. But let me tell you something that most people don't realize. Emotional maturity is the ultimate power move. It's not flashy, it doesn't get the immediate drama, and it's not going to show up in some highlight reel of confrontations, but it will do something much more impactful. It will make them sit with the silence, with the calm strength you show, when you don't fall apart, when you don't plead, don't chase, don't perform for the sake of proving your pain. Because deep down, some people are waiting for you to break, not because they're evil, but because if you break, it reinforces their belief that they were important, that they had power over you, that their absence caused chaos. So when you don't break, when you show up composed, grounded, unshaken, they're left confused. And that confusion grows into curiosity and eventually regret. This doesn't mean you suppress your feelings. It means you choose where and how you express them. It means not handing over the most vulnerable parts of yourself to someone who has already proven they can't handle them with care. Emotional maturity is knowing that someone else's inability to value you doesn't make you any less valuable. And when you operate from that mindset, you move with a calm that no one can shake. You see, maturity is about restraint, and restraint isn't weakness, it's discipline. It's choosing your peace over a moment of satisfaction. It's refusing to let someone drag you into a place of chaos just because they're not secure in themselves. It's recognizing that you don't need to match their immaturity with your own just to feel seen. That guy who pulled away, who started acting cold or inconsistent, he might be watching to see how you react. Will you beg for his attention? Will you question your worth? Will you start texting paragraphs, explaining yourself, trying to make him understand? That's what he's counting on. That's what gives him a sense of power. He doesn't expect you to go quiet, to smile, carry on, and keep leveling up without him. But when you do, when you hold that composure, it creates a mirror. And in that mirror, he sees a reflection that challenges everything he thought he knew about control. He thought he could shake you. He thought you'd fall apart. He thought he was the center of your emotional universe. But your maturity proves otherwise. And trust me, that lands deeper than any dramatic response ever could. You don't need to teach him a lesson through drama. Life will do that for you. Your success, your serenity, your refusal to crumble. That's the lesson. And it sticks because it's rare, because most people do break. Most people let themselves get swept up in the storm, but not you, not this time. You're not here to convince someone of your worth. You're here to live it. And people who can't see it, that's not your audience. Let them watch from a distance as you move forward with grace. They'll feel your absence. They'll feel the weight of not being able to access your energy anymore. Because energy like yours that's calm, confident, and self-contained is unforgettable. That kind of strength lingers. It stays with them long after the texts have stopped, long after the door has closed. So if he's waiting for you to break, don't give him the satisfaction. Let him wait, let him wonder, let him realize that the version of you that once gave him access no longer lives at the same emotional address. That's how you win. When someone is testing you, poking at your emotions, pushing your limits, playing hot and cold, it's not just a random moment of conflict or confusion. It's actually an opportunity to show them exactly who you are and what you will and won't tolerate. These moments, though frustrating, sometimes hurtful, are defining because people don't always ask you directly, what's your standard? They just test it, and how you respond tells them everything they need to know. He might cancel last minute, go silent for days, or make a subtle dig at you just to see how you react. And if you tolerate it, if you brush it off just to stay close, if you explain it away because you want to keep things going, you've unknowingly answered his question. Yes, you can get away with this. Yes, I'll stay even when I feel disrespected. That becomes the new bar. That becomes the dynamic. And it's so hard to shift it later because you already trained him on how to treat you. So instead of asking why he doesn't respect you or why he's pulling away, start asking yourself, what did I tolerate that taught him he could? And that's not about blame, it's about power. Because every time someone tests you, you're in a position of power. Think about that. He might think he has the power in that moment, but he doesn't. You do. You get to decide what happens next. You get to draw the line. You get to make it clear without screaming, without begging, that you're not the kind of person who dances for crumbs. You're not the kind of person who negotiates your worth just to feel wanted for 5 minutes. That's not who you are. But here's the tricky part. When you're emotionally invested in someone, when you've built up a connection, even if it's fragile or inconsistent, it's incredibly tempting to compromise just a little. You want to believe it's a one-off. You want to believe they're just having a bad day. You tell yourself, I don't want to seem too reactive, or maybe I'm being too sensitive. And sometimes that grace is valid, but other times it's a slow erosion of your standards disguised as patience. The real challenge is being able to recognize the difference between empathy and self-abandonment. You can be understanding without being a doormat. You can be kind without being naive. When he pushes, you don't have to push back with drama. You can simply stand still, grounded, clear. And when you respond like that, something powerful happens. You train him differently. You teach him this woman respects herself, and if I want to be part of her life, I need to rise to meet her there. Let's be honest, some men will walk away when you set a standard, and that's okay, let them. Because if a man disappears the moment you express a need or assert a boundary, he was never really present in the first place. He was never invested in anything real. He was just passing time, waiting to see how easy it would be. So when he tests you and you raise the bar and he walks, that's not rejection. That's clarity. That's time saved. That's space created for someone else to walk in, someone who actually gets it, who actually wants to rise, not manipulate. And some men, they wake up when you set the standard. They realize, oh, she's not like the others. And that's not about ego, it's about awakening. You're not there to punish him or to control him. You're just holding a mirror up to his behavior and saying, this is who I am. And I don't bend for someone who isn't showing up fully. That mirror is powerful. It makes someone reflect. It makes them decide what kind of person they want to be. But none of that happens unless you first decide who you are, what you will tolerate, what you deserve, not based on how lonely you feel, not based on how charming he is, but based on the truth of what brings you peace, what honors your self-respect, and what supports the love you know you're capable of giving. This is the foundation of everything. Because when you teach someone how to treat you, you're not just setting a boundary, you're defining the relationship. And even more importantly, you're defining your relationship with yourself, and that is the relationship that determines the quality of every other connection you have. So let the test come. Let him try to push. Let him wait for you to break. Then show him something better. Show him strength. Show him standards. Show him silence where he expected chaos. Show him you don't need to break to feel worthy. Show him you're not playing. You don't owe closure to someone who thrives on confusion. I want you to really sit with that for a second, because so often when someone pulls away or plays hot and cold, we go looking for answers. We want to understand what went wrong. We want to know why they changed. We want that final conversation, the one where they suddenly become self-aware, admit their faults, and give us the emotional clarity we deserve. But that's not how it works with someone who feeds on power. That's not how it works with someone who never had your best interest in mind. When someone plays games with your heart, they're not interested in resolution. They're interested in control. And the moment you start chasing closure from a person like that, you've already handed them the upper hand. You've told them, even silently, I'm still waiting on you to define what this meant. And that's exactly what they want. They want to stay in your head. They want you confused. They want you wondering if you were the problem, if you were too much or not enough. But here's the truth. They're not confused, they're calculated. They know what they're doing when they give you just enough to stay, then pull back the moment you lean in. They know what they're doing when they disappear without explanation, then reappear as if nothing happened. They know exactly the effect it has on you. It keeps you stuck. It makes you question your instincts. It makes you more likely to accept breadcrumbs the next time around, because now you're just desperate for some kind of resolution. That's why closure in these situations isn't something you wait to receive, it's something you choose to give yourself. And I get it, that's not easy. It's not easy to walk away from someone when you feel like there's a conversation still to be had. But you have to ask yourself, is this person capable of giving me a genuine healing conversation? Or am I just going to end up more confused, more disappointed, more hooked? People who thrive on emotional chaos never offer real closure, because closure requires empathy. It requires accountability. It requires sitting with discomfort and telling the truth. And someone who's addicted to control doesn't do truth. They do control. They will gaslight you. They will blame you. They will twist the narrative. And if you go back for one last talk, thinking it will bring clarity, there's a good chance you'll walk away with even more self-doubt than you started with. That's not closure. That's self-sabotage dressed up as emotional courage. Closure isn't about their explanation. It's about your decision to say, I may never get the apology I deserve. I may never get the acknowledgement, but I still choose to let go. That's real power. That's real healing. And the moment you do that, truly do that, you starve them of what they're waiting for. Because here's the truth, they're waiting for you to break. They're waiting for the text, the call, the 3:00 a.m. message where you spill your heart and ask them to explain. They're waiting for that moment because it reaffirms their importance in your life. But when you don't give them that, when you go quiet, not out of spite, but out of strength, that's when the power dynamic shifts. People can feel when they've lost their grip on you. They feel it when your energy pulls back, not in a passive-aggressive way, but in a peaceful, resolute way. They feel it when your absence says more than your words ever could. That's when they realize they can't access you anymore. That's when the game stops working. And I want to be really clear here. Walking away without closure doesn't mean suppressing your emotions. It means processing them on your terms in your space without needing their participation. Talk to your friends, write about it, work through the pain. But don't hand over your healing to someone who has already shown you they can't hold it. There's a quiet confidence that comes from knowing your worth doesn't depend on someone else's acknowledgement. From knowing that the way they treated you was a reflection of them, not you. And when you stop looking to them for closure, you step into a version of yourself that's no longer at the mercy of someone else's emotional immaturity. You begin to see their silence not as a mystery to decode, but as an answer in itself. You realize that not every ending needs a final conversation. Sometimes the most powerful closure is simply choosing yourself without needing their permission or their validation. You don't need to make a dramatic exit. You don't need to send a message outlining all the ways they failed you. You just need to move differently, quietly, strongly, with grace.